In 2022, the City of Melrose engaged in a diversity, equity, and inclusion DEI assessment process designed to collect information about the racial climate in Melrose. Although the survey revealed racial inequities across numerous measures, the report back to the community did not include a discussion of these findings, and there are seemingly no plans to address racial inequities in Melrose. The question, as mayor, what steps would you take to understand and eliminate racial inequities in our city or in your city? We're gonna start with Ms. Grigoritis.
Thank you. I think the first step that any leader needs to do here is acknowledge that these inequities exist in our city and continue to exist. As I've said before, understanding comes from listening to and validating the voices and lived experiences of our residents of color. And we need to do this in ways that are safe, trauma-informed, culturally reflective, and accessible. We need to analyze data and trends, as well as listen to understand from individual experiences. We need to be always looking around every table where decisions are being made and noticing who isn't there, and not just including them, but elevating the voices of those that have been sidelined. And we need to make our own structural changes within City Hall and in how we do business, how we procure goods and services, how we hire, retain, train, support staff, how we expand and protect access to government meetings and information, regardless of physical or language limitations. I have demonstrated my commitment to these issues during my 4 years on the council, and as mayor would continue to do the hard things in order to make city government truly accessible.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Hammer.
Thank you. So the question was, what steps would I take to understand and eliminate racial inequities in our city? So I've learned quite a bit from all of you and these three groups over the years. Racial inequity impacts men and women differently, non-binary differently, and age differently as well. Racial inequity affects every part of life, education, housing, economic, every part. And it's time we actually do the work. We acknowledge the historical and ongoing disparities faced by individuals from different racial backgrounds and are dedicated to dismantling systemic barriers and ensuring that every resident, regardless of their racial identity, has full and equal access to opportunities, resources, and representation in the decision-making process. So I first want to partner with the community to create an equity task force of department heads and community members, including youth commissioners and experts, with open meetings for the public to attend and also learn from, who would review the agenda, drive the agenda, and keep us all accountable. Second thing I want to do is all of this work needs to be driven by data, quantitative and qualitative. The quantitative data will clearly show us where our society and our system are broken. We need to work with an expert partner or organization so that we know upfront what our best practices are and how we can move our community forward without having to learn as we're going and doing it. The fourth thing is ongoing communications. By promoting open and inclusive dialogue, cities can build trust, foster understanding of the challenges faced by marginalized communities, and encourage public participation to address these systemic inequities and promote social justice. And the fifth is to track progress, ensuring accountability and transparency in the pursuit of equitable outcomes for all residents. We need to discuss where we are and where we want to be, have educational programmings for the community also to learn and engage and actually produce some of those efficacy reports publicly. So those are the steps to understand where we are. The draft plan is in the agenda that I mentioned and is in the work that we do. But a few things I want to just point out here, if I still have some time, is I want to create the Office of Economic Opportunity. Bringing departments together and these functions together would focus and exponentially expand our efficacy in this work, including business development, housing, affordable housing and housing affordability, development and community benefit, and capital investment. Also, there are stanfordmelrose.com/equity. There is a plan of steps we will actually take for education, housing, public works infrastructure, public health and safety. But the other one I want to mention tonight is around democracy and elections. I think it's really important, again, that government best represents itself by the people. Government works best when we are representative of the people that we serve. I want to have public information sessions on civic engagement, including how to participate on boards and commissions, and also how to run for elected office. The only way we're going to get, okay, cool. Scene. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Madero Solano.
Thank you. So one of the tenets of my campaign is making sure that we have an open and transparent government. And I think we need to do a better job across the board of evaluating the effectiveness of our initiatives and our expenditures and communicating them to the public. Now, the city did put out a request for proposals for equity assessment and DEI training earlier this year. As mayor, I'm going to work to make sure that plans just don't sit on a shelf. As this process moves forward, I will be reviewing the results to implement the recommended changes. Treating people with respect, listening to them, and treating them fairly and equally must always be at the forefront. And as we look forward to drafting any new legislation or policies, I'll be reviewing them to make sure that they're not creating or worsening any disparate impacts that are out there. I also just want to mention in terms of plans, proposals, and that have come out, the 2 weeks towards change report that was done in 2020. It had so many ideas, and often, I'm not sure how well that's been implemented, but often it was said that funding was an issue that was stopping some of the improvements that were suggested by our own staff members from being implemented. That's why, to me, one of the most important things that I can do as mayor and that we need to do as a city is to make sure that we are really engaging in long-term planning and that we get our finances under control. As mayor, I'll begin on day one to build a 5-year strategic financial plan. This will help us to go back and review what we've spent our money on for the last, say, 3 to 5 years, and find ways moving forward we can project out what we need versus what we have for revenues coming in, and then look back and see, are there ways that we can be more effective, and can we restructure, can we partner with other communities to regionalize, etc., so that we can find ways to reduce our budget shortfall. I'm very concerned about using our free cash to balance our budget on an ongoing basis. This is an unsustainable way to do business. And it also means that it takes that money, that free cash one-time revenue that we often use for these one-time projects, like implementing a new plan or making some changes that involve capital or and other things. Our city departments are all important, and they all face the public and provide services. So I'm implementing that kind of strategic financial planning is vital to our success in many areas, including eliminating some of our racial disparities. Thank you.